Affordable housing is a great value for a town. Here in Mount Laurel, it promotes stability in neighborhoods.
When you hear the name Mount Laurel in New Jersey, you might just think of a town. But for the last half-century, that name has meant something so much bigger. It's the name of a legal battle that has totally reshaped the entire state. Let's get into it. So, that's the big question we're tackling today. How did one single town end up changing the rules for housing across an entire state? It's a real story of conflict, of progress, and a huge debate over a really simple question: who gets to live where? All right, so to really get what's going on with housing in Jersey today, we've got to go back to the beginning, back to the birth of something called the Mount Laurel Doctrine. So what does that actually mean? Well, basically, the court laid down the law. It said that towns can't just use their zoning rules to wall themselves off and keep lower-income people out. Nope. They have a constitutional duty to plan for and allow their fair share of affordable housing. This was a direct shot at what's called exclusionary zoning. Okay, but here's the thing. It's one thing to have a court order, but it's a whole other thing to actually get homes built. This decision kicked off 50 years, 5 decades, of intense legal and political warfare. And this timeline, wow, it really lays out the whole saga. You have the big ruling back in '75, then what followed was just this endless era of lawsuits and political pushback. The state even created this whole agency, co-op, to try and manage everything, but that just ground to a halt, creating total gridlock, until finally this year's brand new law. But here's what's wild. For all the fighting and all the gridlock, it wasn't a total wash. Over its 50-year history, the doctrine did lead to the construction of more than 75,000 affordable homes in New Jersey. Now, that is a huge number. But man, it came at a high cost in time and legal bills. Which brings us right up to today, to 2024, and a massive legislative overhaul signed by Governor Phil Murphy. It was basically the state admitting, you know what, the old way is broken. It's time for a fresh start. And you can really see the difference here. The old way, it was a mess, just endless lawsuits and a bureaucracy COA that was completely paralyzed. The new way is designed to be faster, more predictable. It completely gets rid of COA and brings in a special program to handle disputes, plus a clear formula. The goal is to take the guesswork and a lot of the fighting out of the equation. So what's the new game plan? How is it supposed to work? Well, it's pretty straightforward. Step 1, the state calculates what a town owes. Step 2, the towns create their own plans to meet that goal. Step 3, if there's a problem, special judges step in to mediate and find a quick solution. And here's the kicker. Towns that cooperate and get their plans approved get immunity from those super expensive developer lawsuits that gummed up the works for decades. And you know what? The early feedback is actually pretty positive. Adam Gordon from the Fair Share Housing Center, and believe me, these guys have been in the trenches on this issue for years. He says the new system is already working better than anything they've seen in decades. That's a huge vote of confidence. But look, passing laws and pouring concrete, that's just part of the story. For the actual families and people waiting for these homes, there's still one last crucial hurdle before they can finally get the keys. We're shifting gears now, from the big picture policy to the personal reality of actually getting a home. Right, because once that unit is finally ready, whether it's an affordable one or a market rate house, the journey for the person who's going to live there, it's really just getting started. All that high-level policy has to come down to one person, one family, and for them, it usually starts with a whole lot of paperwork. And that reality? Yep, you guessed it, it's paperwork. A whole mountain of it. We're talking mortgage documents, deeds, affidavits. It's a complicated process every single homebuyer goes through, and every signature has to be legally verified. And this is where you absolutely can't cut corners. Things like mortgage closings are legally binding, and they require a notary to make sure everything is legit, to verify who you are, and to witness your signature. It's the step that makes that house officially, legally yours. And for folks going through this process right there in the Mount Laurel area, the very town where this whole story kicked off, there are local experts who can make this last step way, way easier. CND Mobile Notary offers fast, friendly, and expert service right in the community, helping make that closing process as smooth as possible. You can reach them at 609-630-0129. So, okay, new law, new process. Does that mean the 50-year fight in New Jersey is finally over? Well, not so fast. This chart really puts it into perspective. The new law's goal, based on that legal formula, is to get about 84,000 new units built. But if you look at the actual need for the state's poorest renters, it's over 200,000. So the Mount Laurel Doctrine was never going to fix the entire housing crisis on its own, and there's still a pretty big gap.
And yeah, housing advocates are quick to point out there are still some major hurdles to clear. The new law has some really tight timelines for towns, local approvals can still drag on, more funding is always needed, and that deep-rooted problem of racial segregation in housing, the thing that started this whole lawsuit in the first place, that's still very much an issue.
But maybe the biggest shift of all isn't in the law, but in people's mindsets. We're now seeing local leaders like Councilwoman Heather Cooper from nearby Evesham, who are out there publicly making the case that affordable housing is a good thing, that it adds value and stability to a town. I mean, that is a night and day difference from the attitudes of the past. So that really leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? After 50 years of fighting, New Jersey has a totally new playbook. But is this the end of the story, or is it just the beginning of a whole new chapter? I guess only time will tell. If you found this explainer useful, do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. And for a much deeper dive, definitely check out the news article about the Mount Laurel Doctrine. We've got it linked for you in the description below.